Okay, guys. So yeah, welcome back. Um, Yesterday we created or we bootstrapped the React app using the create React app command, um, and then we specified our folder name, and it generated all these files for us. One of the files you should take note of is the package.json file that it generates for you. And here you're going to find a list of all the libraries that your app requires to function properly. So like I said, the React app is a single page application and it's just bare metal. Um, it's more like you're buying fried rice and then you're adding coleslaw, you're adding meat. Those coleslaw, meat, and plantain are the libraries you are adding to make your food better. So for example, by default, React does not have routing. And you know when you created your HTML, CSS, JavaScript libraries the other time, or project the other time, you linked pages together using the anchor tag. But the React app does not have that. So to be able to implement routing in React, you need a library. And we're going to be using React Router library to do that. Now to install packages in React, you need npm, that's your Node Package Manager. And like I said before, when we were installing Node, we said Node comes bundled with npm. Remember? Node comes bundled with npm. So we already have npm installed. npm is a Node Package Manager. We can decide to use npm. We can also decide to use yarn. If you don't have yarn installed on your machine, you can go to your terminal and use this command to install yarn globally. npm install, take note of the spaces in between npm install, the space in between install and -g. -g is what we call a flag, and it's a global flag. We're saying install yarn globally on this machine. So after installing yarn globally on your machine, you can proceed to your terminal, the one inside your projects, that's in your VS Code. As you can take note, this terminal is already running in my web folder. Can you see this? So whatever I'm installing here, if it's not global, if I don't have the global flag, it's going to install it in this folder. It's going to add it to my package.json. It's going to update the list of dependencies I already have here, and it's also going to install the entire library in my node modules folder. This node modules folder was not created by you, it was created by CRA. So once you use the create React app command on your terminal, it's going to generate all these bootstrapped files for you. So doing yarn add React router DOM, we have already done that before now, this project, right? It added React router DOM version 6.8.1 to our project, and that means we can now enjoy the benefits of routing in our React app. We can add routing to our React app now. React Router DOM version 6.8.1 is different from previous versions in its implementation. So you're going to be using a provider to wrap your entire app, and then that means your DOM would be waiting. It's called a provider. Your DOM would be waiting on the provider to determine what it can display per time. So what does that mean? Let's go to our index.js file. This is our main file. This is where your React app is looking out for components first of all. And remember our render, what we have in our render function is saying get elements by id root. This element is already in our document is already in our index.html. We have an element by id called root, right? And we are saying that in our index.js, 1 minute, here we are saying that once we get the element by id root, it should render this home component for us, right? Now we want to add an extra layer of rendering to it, and we're going to be importing what we call a provider from React Router library. You remember we spoke about export and importing of JS modules. So this library we were not the creators, but the creators have exposed or exported some variables that we can work with, or that we can use, some methods that we can work with, some components that we can use in their library. All you need to do is import them. You need to know the names with which they were exported and then just import. That's why we have what we call a documentation. So when you go to React Router DOM's documentation for version 6.8.1, they already told us that they have the create browser router component that you can use, or method that you can use, and then the router provider component that you can use. So we're going to be importing these two into our index.js file. Can you see this? And then we're going to be using this router provider instead of the home. Now let me quickly do this and then explain what I mean. So we come here and we use this router provider here. We come here, we now create a router that determines how the provider displays components. Does that make sense? So here, instead of displaying hello world, let's ask it to display home. So what we are saying is this render function, or this render method, is dependent on this, is now dependent on this provider. It's whatever this provider sends to this render method that will be shown in our documents in between the two div tags that have an ID called root. So inside here, our React would be looking for the right English now, inserting document or components that will be rendered as HTML elements in between these two tags. So simply, once again, it's saying look for an element with an ID root and render whatever you have here. Now, but whatever you have here is determined by this router method. And this router method is taking in an array of objects of parts and the elements to render. So we are saying in the home part, render the home component. Let's import about. Let's import our about component now. About from about. We're now saying if there is another part called about, render the about component. So can we go over to our app? You know, by default we only have localhost 3000. This is our home by default. Now when you go to /about, it shows us this is the about page. So in our about page, remember I told you about reusable components. Our header is here, right? We can also now import our header. Please look up Cindy. We can now import our header in our about component. Does this make sense? So we can have something like this. It's about from oh sorry, import header. We're already in about. Import header from header, and then we can come here, add header. You remember we can only have one parent component, and add header here. So we have reused the header that I was telling you about. Before now, your normal HTML CSS code, you need to copy and paste your header, and if there's any change, you need to go and change it in all your pages. But now you only need to go to your header component to change, and it will reflect in all your pages. Do you get what I mean? So if I go to the header component here and I say this is where the header is, the yo-yo, you have it here, and then when you go back to your home, sorry, it went to HTTPS. You have this where the header stay yo. Literally, you are just changing your code in one component. Does that make sense? So we could have we could then have in our header, we could have, let's say, something like a nav link. So let's check the documentation for navigation in React Router DOM for we need to be sure that we use navlink. Okay, so we still use navlink in this what's it called? We still use navlink in version 6.8.1 of React Router DOM. So it's what you need that you import. Does that make sense? What we need here is navlink because we want to set up linking in this header component. So please look at what I'm doing. I've imported navlink. Navlink is similar to your anchor tag. So let me just copy the code we have here already to use, and then I'll explain. So let's have this nav. Let's copy this too. That's easier for us. So let this go to about, right? Now let this go to home. Let's have the first one go to home, change it to home. Let this go to about. We go to about. So this will be your own assignment. Let this third one go to another component or another page that you're yet to create. So if you come back here, this is now our new navigation header, and we're already on home. Oh, sorry. About. Oh, sorry. Our home should not go to home. It should just go to slash, right? Should go to the default page. Yeah. Tasks. Oh, we don't have tasks yet, right? Is that true? So I'm going to be hiding that for now. That would be your own assignment. Add more navigation and more components to what we already have. So home. Home goes to slash, about goes to about, then we are good.